I was scrolling through Facebook on a quiet Sunday morning when my stomach dropped. There it was, a huge group photo, everyone grinning in front of a sprawling lake house. My Aunt Linda, my cousins Megan and Tyler, even Uncle Rick, who never leaves his farm. The caption read, "Best family reunion ever. Worth every penny. $15,000 well spent." I froze. No one had told me about a reunion. No call, no text, no email. Nothing. I kept staring at the picture, trying to tell myself maybe it was a last-minute thing. But then I saw the date in the corner. This had been planned for months. They didn't even think I was worth inviting. A week later, my phone lit up with a message from cousin Megan. "Hey girl, we should totally catch up. When's your next free weekend?" I didn't know yet, but I was about to find out why they suddenly remembered I existed. Have you ever realized you weren't invited because they never thought you mattered? I grew up in a little town called Willow Creek, Ohio, the kind of place where everybody knew everybody and family wasn't just blood, it was an unspoken law. If you belonged for life. And for most of my childhood, I believed I belonged. Every summer, without fail, the Anderson family reunion was the event. It didn't matter if you had a new job, a new baby, or a busted knee. You showed up. My earliest memory of it was when I was about 5. Aunt Linda's backyard smelled like charcoal and sweet corn, and I sat on a scratchy picnic blanket between my mom and Uncle Rick while Megan and I tried to see who could spit watermelon seeds the farthest. I lost, but she let me claim victory anyway. By the time I was a teenager, those reunions had become sacred. I'd watch the adults in their lawn chairs sipping iced tea while the kids ran wild across the yard. Someone always brought a boombox with a scratched-up Kenny Chesney CD, and we'd dance barefoot in the grass until the fireflies came out. It wasn't just the reunions, though. We had our traditions. Christmas at Grandma Joe's house with the cinnamon rolls that burned just a little on the bottom, but tasted like heaven. Easter egg hunts at Uncle Mark's farm, where the prize egg usually had a $20 bill stuffed inside, courtesy of Aunt Linda. I used to think these people were my safety net. Megan, especially, was my closest friend. We were only 6 months apart in age, so we went through everything together: braces, bad haircuts, heartbreaks. When my first boyfriend, Tyler King, dumped me right before prom, Megan showed up at my door with 2 tubs of mint chocolate chip ice cream and a copy of 10 Things I Hate About You. We sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor, crying, laughing, and pausing the movie just to roast every single one of Tyler's Instagram posts. And I was there for her, too. When she didn't get into her first-choice college, I took her out for greasy diner fries and told her it didn't matter. She was still going to take over the world. Back then, I never questioned whether I mattered to them. Sure, sometimes I'd hear about a get-together after it happened. A barbecue at Uncle Rick's, a quick trip to the lake, but I figured it was just bad timing. "We'll catch you next time," Megan would say, and I believed her. I remember one 4th of July when I couldn't make it to the big party because I was working a double shift at the coffee shop. Aunt Linda sent me a photo of everyone holding sparklers, with the caption, "Miss you, sweetheart. It's not the same without you." That text made me feel like they cared. Like, even when I wasn't there, I was still part of the picture. The truth is, I wanted to see them as the perfect family. My own home life wasn't exactly warm. My dad worked long hours and barely spoke, and my mom, well, she loved us, but she wasn't the type to plan game nights or bake cookies. The Andersons felt like a version of family I could step into whenever I needed comfort. Looking back now, I realize there were small things I ignored. Little moments where I was treated just slightly differently. Like the year they did a Secret Santa gift exchange, and my gift was a gas station mug, while Megan got a designer purse from Aunt Linda. Or the time everyone pitched in to rent a beach house for the weekend, and they forgot to send me the details until the day before. At the time, I brushed it off. I told myself I was overthinking, that maybe I just wasn't as good at staying in the loop. Because if I admitted it was intentional, I'd have to admit I wasn't really part of the family I thought I had. Still, I kept showing up. Every reunion, every birthday, every holiday. I helped set up tables, ran to the store for extra ice, took photos for the family scrapbook. And every time, I felt that warm buzz in my chest, the kind you get when you're sure you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That feeling was about to shatter. It started subtly, the kind of things you don't recognize as red flags until you've connected the dots years later. At first, it was little slip-ups. I'd see pictures online of impromptu lake trips with Megan, Tyler, and the rest of the cousins. Everyone smiling on the dock, drinks in hand, captions like, "Best day ever. Can't believe we pulled this together so last minute." I'd text Megan, "Looks like fun. I wish I could have come." And she'd reply with something vague like, "Yeah, it was super random. We didn't even know we were going until the night before." But then I'd overhear Aunt Linda telling my mom about how they'd booked the cabin weeks in advance. Then there were the group chats, or rather, the group chats I wasn't in. Sometimes Megan would accidentally send me a message meant for the family group, and I'd get a glimpse of entire conversations I'd never been included in. Plans being made, jokes I didn't understand, nicknames I'd never heard before. One Thanksgiving, things got even clearer. We were all at Grandma Jo's house, passing around mashed potatoes, when Uncle Rick made a toast. "To the real core of the Anderson family, the ones who always show up," he said, raising his glass. Everyone laughed. I did too, but something in me tightened. I had shown up. For years. The worst part was how they'd still make me feel almost included. Megan would tag me in a meme about bad family photos, or Aunt Linda would text me, "We missed you at the barbecue," even though I'd never been told it was happening. One night, about a year before the reunion, I tried to talk to Megan about it. We were sitting in her kitchen, sipping wine. "Do you ever feel like, I don't know, I'm not really part of the inner circle?" I asked. She blinked at me, surprised. "What? No. You're just busy, that's all. We figured you had your own thing going on." "But you don't even ask," I said, my voice a little sharper than I intended. Megan looked uncomfortable. "Well, sometimes it just feels like you're different, you know? Not in a bad way. Just different." Different. That word stuck to me like a burr. From then on, I couldn't unsee it. The way conversations would quiet down when I walked into a room, or how they'd exchange glances when I mentioned my job or my apartment. It wasn't just that they forgot to invite me. It was that they didn't think I belonged enough to remember. Still, I kept hoping it was in my head. I didn't want to believe that the family I'd grown up loving would ever intentionally leave me out. But by the time the $15,000 reunion rolled around, they'd made it clear. I was a guest in my own family. It was a Sunday morning in early September. I was curled up on my couch, coffee in one hand, scrolling through Facebook when my breath caught in my throat. There was a massive group photo. The Andersons. All of them. They were standing on the balcony of a sprawling lake house, the kind you only see on real estate listings for people who say price upon request. Aunt Linda in her oversized sunglasses. Uncle Rick in a Hawaiian shirt, strumming his guitar. Megan, Tyler, and at least 20 other relatives, smiling, hugging, holding champagne flutes. The caption read, "Best family reunion ever. Worth every penny. $15,000 well spent. Already counting down to next year? $15,000. The comments were full of inside jokes, memories from all the nights we stayed up late, and talk about the amazing private chef. I scrolled further down and saw albums. Albums. Day 1, wine tasting at a vineyard. Day 2, boat ride across the lake, dinner on the deck under string lights. Day 3, spa day for the women, fishing trip for the men. And not a single text, email, or phone call to me. My chest felt hollow. It wasn't just that they'd had fun without me, it was that this had been planned for months. The kind of trip that required spreadsheets, group payments, and a dozen phone calls. Someone had to notice my name missing from the list. Someone had to say, "Hey, what about her?" And they didn't. I set my coffee down and just stared at the screen, numb. The worst part? Not even my mom had mentioned it. She wasn't close to that side of the family, but she'd been at a few reunions before. When I called her, she hesitated. "Oh, honey, I didn't think you'd want to go," she said. "Why wouldn't I want to go?" I demanded. She sighed. "I don't know. You're always so busy. I didn't think you'd fit in." Fit in. There it was again. For a week, I avoided Facebook. I muted Megan's posts. I told myself I didn't need to see more of what I'd missed. And then one Friday evening, my phone buzzed. Cousin Megan. Hey girl. We should totally catch up. When's your next free weekend? I stared at the screen. Megan hadn't texted me directly in months. A minute later, another message. Also, random question. I heard from Aunt Linda that your company's doing really well. I'm so proud of you. That's when I remembered a few weeks earlier, my startup had been featured in a local business magazine. The headline, From Scratch to Success, Ohio Woman's Company hits 7-figure revenue. So that's why they suddenly remembered I existed. Not because they missed me. Not because they felt guilty. Because now, I was worth something to them. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to just smile and play along. I didn't respond to Megan's text right away. Instead, I let it sit there for 2 days, unread on purpose. On the third day, she called. Hey stranger, she chirped, like we'd just spoken last week. We were talking about doing another family trip, maybe a ski resort this time, and I thought since your business is doing so amazing now, maybe you'd want to be involved? I sat there in silence for a beat, letting the air get heavy. Finally, I said, involved how? Oh, she said, laughing nervously. You could help us plan, maybe even sponsor a little. You're so good with organizing things and, well, you could probably swing a nicer place than we could afford on our own. There it was. The truth, served up without shame. Megan, I said slowly, you spent $15,000 on a reunion and didn't even tell me it existed. But now that you think I can bankroll the next one, you remember my number? She went quiet. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, I snapped. You didn't forget me. You decided I wasn't important enough to include, until you thought I could pay for your fun. I heard her inhale sharply. We just didn't think you'd fit in anymore. Stop, I cut her off. You don't get to decide when I fit in. Family isn't a subscription service you cancel and then renew when the perks change. There was a long pause before she said, well, if you don't want to come, that's fine. I just thought. No, I interrupted again. I am going to a reunion, just not yours. And that was true because 2 weeks later, I booked a weekend getaway to the same luxury lake house they'd rented, but this time, I filled it with people who actually valued me. My best friend Hannah, my business partner Claire, my neighbor Lisa, even my college roommate Katie. We drank wine on the balcony, laughed until our sides hurt, and toasted to real loyalty. I made sure to post a photo with the caption, Best reunion ever, with my real family. I didn't tag a single Anderson. The photo from my real family reunion went up on a Saturday night. By Sunday morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. First came the text from cousins I barely spoke to. Tyler.
Wow.
Nice digs.
Didn't know you were rolling like that.
Aunt Linda. Saw your post. Glad you're finally making time for family again. Hope we can all reconnect soon. And then, Megan. So, I guess that was for us? Kind of petty, don't you think? I didn't respond. By Monday, my mom called. I've been getting calls all day, she said, her voice tight. Everyone's asking why you're being so public about this. I laughed bitterly. Public? They didn't care about public when they posted their $15,000 reunion for the world to see, without me in it. She sighed. Honey, they just don't see it the way you do.
Exactly.
They never would. In the weeks that followed, a strange divide formed. A couple of relatives, like my cousin Rachel and Uncle Mark, reached out privately to say they'd thought it was wrong to leave me out. Rachel even admitted she'd asked about inviting me but was told I wouldn't be interested. Most of the others?
Silent.
Or worse, defensive. I overheard at a family wedding. Yes, I still had to see them sometimes, that I was letting money go to my head and making everything about me. But the truth was, I finally wasn't making everything about them. For a long time, I grieved the version of the Anderson family I thought I had, the warm, unconditional, all-hands-together crew from my childhood. Now I understood that family had only ever existed in my head. The real one was transactional, conditional, selective. And once you see that clearly, you can't unsee it. Some nights, I'd think about those old summer reunions, the fireflies, the music, the feeling of belonging. It still hurt, but now the hurt came with the knowledge that I hadn't lost something real. I'd lost an illusion. And weirdly, that was freeing. It's funny. Once you stop chasing people who don't value you, you suddenly have room for the ones who do. After the lake house weekend with my chosen family, I started being intentional about who I gave my time to. Hannah and I made Sunday brunch our ritual. Claire and I launched a mentorship program for young women starting their own businesses. I even started hosting small dinners at my apartment, inviting neighbors, old friends, and new faces I'd met through volunteer work. These weren't lavish events, no $15,000 price tags, no professional photographers, but every single person at that table wanted to be there. I also began therapy. At first, I thought it was just to process the reunion incident, but my therapist helped me see it went deeper, that I'd spent years trying to earn love that should have been freely given. That realization was like pulling a thorn out of my chest. One evening, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, watching the sunset, and I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. The Andersons hadn't changed, they probably never would. But I had. For the first time, my sense of family wasn't tied to bloodlines, shared last names, or old photo albums. It was tied to actions. To people who showed up, not just when it was convenient, but when it mattered. I didn't need an invitation to belong. I'd built my own table. If you've listened to my story this far, I want you to hear me clearly. Family isn't defined by who shares your DNA. It's defined by who shows up for you without a price tag, without conditions, without keeping score. If you've ever been excluded, if you've ever found out about the party after the photos went up, if you've ever been treated like an afterthought until someone needed something from you, please know this. You don't have to wait for their approval to live your life. I used to think if I tried harder, showed up more, gave more, maybe then they'd see my worth. But real love doesn't work like that. You don't earn it by proving yourself over and over. It's either there or it isn't. So, here's my challenge to you. Take stock of the people in your life. Who makes you feel seen, valued, respected? Who only calls when they need something? Then, invest your time and energy in the first group. Walk away from the second. You won't regret it. Because in the end, the people who truly care about you won't care what's in your wallet, only what's in your heart. If this story resonated with you, share it. Drop your own experiences in the comments. Let's remind each other that we're not alone, and that sometimes the best family is the one we create for ourselves.